Hello, 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 hello. Welcome. This is G. You are watching All Astrology, and I think Taffy is taking a siesta right now. So we are Taffy free. Um, and I only say that because sometimes Taffy's present. And sometimes she's way more present than at other times. I was editing a video today and I was shocked because I know she was in the video with me. Normally she's laying down right here. But in this particular video, she was like sitting right here, right in this spot, like this blank spot here. She was sitting right here on the edge of the table. And the whole time I'm sitting there talking about whatever the hell I'm talking about, some astrology stuff. She's sitting here the whole time, like as if she was listening. It was the wildest thing. And the video, it was like, I think, a 20-minute video. And she sat there almost the entire video. Well, she was down here for a little bit of it, but a good portion of it, she was right here. And I was just like, as I was editing it, I'm like, holy shit, Taffy's like, I think she's into this shit. So anyway, so I have the approval of, Taffy. So she needs a break because she kind of worked overtime on that video. Like she's normally laying on her side and getting her butt rubbed and having her little body massages. And anyway, it was just really, I don't know. I liked it. I liked seeing that. I was like, Taffy is so amazing. So gee, get on with the point of the video already. Okay, I will. But there is a point to me talking about Taffy. I know, right? Pets. I know you're thinking I'm going to go to Virgo with this, but I'm not. I'm going to the sign after Virgo because Taffy exudes that energy in a big way. Right, we're going to the sign of Libra. And we're talking about Libran energy because the nodes are going to be moving, right? We got the north and the south node pretty soon, right? In the month of July, they're going to be changing signs. Right now, they're in Taurus and Scorpio, and they're going to be moving backwards, which is normal. And they're going to be in Aries and Libra energy. So, we're just going to do a little talk through. And then we'll show you what the node looks like because it's confusing. It took me a while. When I first started getting into the nitty-gritty of astrology, it took me a while to distinguish the north and the south node from each other. And matter of fact, many astrology softwares, for those of you who use astro.com, it's a great software. It's a free website. Using their software, it's absolutely free, and it's an astrologer's website even, like, so it's got like all the different charts you could think of to draw up. But it doesn't, at least on the charts I was drawing up anyway, it wouldn't show the south node. It only shows you the north node, which is basically the average of the nodes, right? And so it would have a T there for the true mean, MEAN, average. Got it? And so my whole point of sharing that is that I would never normally see that glyph. I mean, I realize it's a horseshoe, right? But so is the other one. The north node is also a horseshoe. One is flipped the other way. Other than that, on regular or on many softwares, they look identical other than one is reversed. So if you're not real familiar with seeing the glyph, it could be like, wait a minute, which one is this, right? So what I'm going to do here is, or at least what I'm hoping I'm going to do here, my goal, did it not work? My goal is to pull up this chart. Yeah, it worked. And I want to kind of draw some marks on it for you guys so that you can see this as I walk through this with you. And we're going to show you the south node where it is right now because I'm doing the chart of the moment. Okay, it's just, that's the chart we're looking at, the chart of the moment. Okay. And here it is. So What do you see? Let me see if I can see what you see. You see it. Yeah, right. Isn't that awesome? That's the south node. It's the horseshoe, right? And so the south node, the solid part of the horseshoe, is facing south. Oops, let me fix that. There you go. Is facing south. You see that? And the open part, the open end of the horseshoe is facing north. Okay. So because the south node is all about something you already know how to do, it's a completion, so to speak, because it's like something where you already took the class. You took the 101, the 202, and the 303. You've like mastered this energy already. You really don't need this, the south node. So what when I read people's charts, I'm like, this is one of your superpowers. This is something you innately came in with as a gift. You were born with this knowing, with this knowledge. Okay. You were just born this way. Like so many people use that south node energy in their life. And it's like, wow, they're amazing. How awesome. Unbelievable. And there's nothing wrong with that. But many times their south node energy is part of that, and that's because it's kind of like your superpower. It's what you were born understanding and knowing, and you completed the studies, which is why I use the word completion on purpose, because if we look at the bottom end of that horseshoe, it's closed off, it's completed, it's not missing like the top end is. So wherever that solid part is at, that's how you know that's the south node. That's how you know that's the south node, because the closed off section, this closed off section, we can get rid of this now. You got my point on that. This closed off section is pointing towards the south. Okay, so that's the south node, right? Which means the north node is the exact opposite. And this isn't a video about the north node, but we're going to reference it just really quick here so that you can see it. If I can get this to just do what I just had it doing for me, that would be great. Can you do it again, please? Thank you. Got to talk to it. So there's your north node, right? There's your north node. And if I could draw an arrow, we'd be like all good. Okay, can we get rid of that one? Pretend like I didn't do it. Yeah, throw that away. Here we go. There's your north node. And listening to the kind of suggestion I just gave of how I recognize it, the closed end is pointing upward. It's pointing north. Okay, so that's the north node. And we're going to go back down and explore the south node. Yeah, it never wants to do what I want it to do. It just tells me, no, it should be this. Like, no, it really should be this. Thank you. It always questions me. And I'm like, what's going on with this? What is all the questions? Like, yeah. So there it is. I really yeah, it's big here, right? Let me get rid of that arrow or that thing. Yeah. So you see, that's the south node now. Now we see it. Now we see it and we understand how it looks in our chart, how it looks if you're looking at a transit chart, whatever it is, you can now recognize what the south node is. So now what else about the south node do we need to know? Well, understanding that it's something you have knowledge about prior to going to school. Has nothing to do with what mom and dad taught you. Has nothing to do with your siblings or what you learned at home, right? Before you started school, it's got nothing to do with any of that. It's just see it as this. It's a gift. It's a gift you were given upon your birth by the divine deity, Allah, God, the creator, Yahweh, whatever, right? Whatever word you choose for that. And if you don't have a word, if you don't believe in that, well, then you just came in with some automatic skills that you did not have to work for. Some would say it's kind of like grace. You didn't have to, no, not her, the other grace, right? The grace where it's like, yeah, like, wow, I don't know how that happened. And some would say divine grace. And so it's it's just a gift. Okay. It's just a gift. We'll leave it at that. So we have this understanding and this knowledge, right? Now, knowing that segment, that little piece of it is important. The next thing we got to talk about is Libran energy. Libran energy. And I'm going to highlight something here in this chart because Libran energy is right here. So I'm just going to use this chart and mark it up, even though it might look crazy to you. But that's okay because I'm just trying to simplify things. And so here's the sign of Libra. Okay. So we got a big visual and we've got Libran energy. And we need to understand Libran energy because this south node, as you see on this chart, it's at 4 degrees here. You see how it's currently at 4 degrees? The node naturally travels. If I could just draw an arrow. Hold on. Stay with me, folks. I got a little bit of control here. I know what I'm doing. I know it might not seem like I do, but I do. There's my arrow. Being at 4 degrees, and the nodes normally always go backwards, right? Yes, that's the natural cycle of the nodes. They move backwards. So if it goes backwards, then the next sign is Libra, right? Libra is right before Scorpio in the zodiac, okay? So the nodes are going to enter Libra, okay? So now we got to talk about Libra because that's what the nodes are going to be. That's what the south node is going to be in. Again, I already did a video on Aries in the north node, but this is the Libran south node. And I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of, I had another video planned to do before I did this one. And I, for whatever reason, like the intuition, whatever, the guidance just came in really strongly. No, you really need to do the south node in Libra first. And I said, okay. And then like the lighting was all ready. And so I just shut the door and, when you get access to equipment in a room, you just got to kind of take advantage of it right then and there. And so that's what I'm doing. My point is, I didn't include in my room with me here, I don't have my book. I don't have my 29 Degrees of Libra to read from the Dane Rudyard book. Okay, so that's fine. I'll just do a separate video for that. Not a big deal. I can just talk to you about Libran energy because we're going to understand. We got to know what Libra represents. We got to know. And so we'll first start off by talking about the obvious. It's the scales of balance. And that's what that's supposed to be right there. That's supposed to be a scale, right? It's supposed to be a balance. And, you go to the market and they put that little thing right there. And then there's like this thing up here. And then there's just this little thing that goes here. And this little thing that goes here, and you make a purchase, right? And you put your vegetables, I don't know what's going on. That looks so weird. You put your vegetables on the tray, right? And so that fills that up. And how do you figure out the weight? These are old school scales, by the way. Like the only time I've ever seen a scale like this was when I worked at the bakery. They had this scale that was ancient. And so you would have to know the 5-pound weight, the 10, you would have to just stack the weights on until you saw this thing get balanced, until you saw it, instead of it being like this way or that way, you had to keep adding the weights and the increments until it was centered, and even. That way it was fair because what they were purchasing, they were then going to pay for, right? And so you don't want to overcharge. That was the whole idea. So you would measure and weigh things out carefully. So everything I'm talking about is all Libran energy. So many say that this is the scales of justice. That's what a lot of folks say, that Libran energy is the scales of justice. So for me, what I'll just add to that then is just like lawyer energy, because people, when we think of Libran energy, how many times do you hear me talk about a person that's Libran energy? You hear me say Venus, feminine energy, right? Right. But do you ever really talk about like who else this is? Yeah. For Libra, what do we say? Partnerships, right? People you're in relationships with, partnerships, significant one-on-one partnerships even. So is that all? Well, it can be marriage and business, but it can also be lawyers because they're the ones that practice the justice and supposedly use like the scales of justice, right? The scales of justice. And that's kind of what that's supposed to be, like Lady Liberty. Have you ever seen a picture? If you Google it, Lady Liberty, she's got a blindfold on and she's holding the scales of justice in her hand. either like this or like this, right? And so the idea is justice is blind, meaning I don't need to use my eyes to figure out what's fair. Like I can use my other senses. And the idea, if you take away the vision, take away the eyes, Libran energy can be the eyes too. We understand that, or at least we're supposed to understand, that what we see with the eye can be misleading, right? And isn't that the truth, right? What's the opposite? What is the opposite of Libra? Is Aries, and we know that Aries is the ascendant, the physical body. And we also know that the ascendant, the rising sign, the physical body is the appearance. And you often hear me refer to it as the cover of the book. It's your book cover. It's like the story of who you are, but it's just, if who you are could be summed up in just an image, do you think that one image can truly tell us who you are? No, it can be quite misleading. Just like when you go to buy a movie. Remember back in the day, right? You go to the video store and you got to look at the videos, and there was like all the ones you wanted were gone. And you're like, oh, snap. So you're looking around and you're like, damn, well, this looks good. This looks good. And some people read the back of the movie thing, like, which is just, of course, to sound awesome and excellent. But even that, it's misleading. It's appearances. And that's the whole thing. You can never judge a book by its cover. That saying, you can never judge a book by its cover. So when we talk about appearances and the scales of justice, holding the scale with her blindfold on, Lady Justice wears a blindfold. And it's for that reason, because when you walk into the courtroom, supposedly, right, who you are in society shouldn't make a difference. It's about the law. It's about the rules. It's about, did you follow the law? Did you follow the rules? And let's see what is fair and just here, right? And as Glenn Kirshner would say, because justice matters, right? So Lady Liberty, so it's feminine energy, Venus energy. Okay. And definitely partnerships, significant one-on-one partnerships. Again, they can be those relationships energy. It can be private. It can be, someone you're married to, someone you've committed to, someone you're willing to compromise for. Because compromise, think of the word compromise. When we think of the scales of justice, when we think of weights and checks and balances, when we think of, how that works, I shouldn't have said checks and balances necessarily, but when we think of setting up those weights, right? What we're trying to achieve is the equilibrium, the fairness, the equality. And so we're constantly having to tweak what's over here so that we can meet in the middle. Because when you meet in the middle, it's considered fair and just, right? It's considered fair and just, especially within relationships, right? Law is the law. Like the laws of different lands are different. And so that, we can't really go too deep into that one with this. All right. But we can, using the scales of justice, and we can, when I say scales of justice, my bad, the scale, like when you think of the food scale, when we think of relationships, right? The give and take, are you willing to meet me halfway? Are you willing to meet me halfway? And so typically Libran energy, especially if you have a South Node in Libra, like natally in your birth chart, okay? If you were born with your South Node in Libra, I'm gonna walk and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this, because the South Node is about to enter Libra. And for those who don't have the South Node in Libra, they're not real familiar with it. Libra South Node is someone who is an expert, superpower, at compromising. They're always keeping track of what is fair and just. They're keenly tuned into that. Because it's Venus, it wants the relationships to be fair, because that will be beautiful. And when we think of the word beauty, think of harmony. Maybe harmony is the wrong word. Think of I always think of a hairdresser, because it's Venus making people beautiful. making pets beautiful, making a home beautiful. It depends on what house your South Node is in, right? So making somebody beautiful, willing to compromise because you want to have a beautiful and fair relationship, equality. Equality. Is somebody pulling the sled and nobody else is contributing? Is there only one person pulling that sled? Or as a subscriber said recently, I'm the only one pulling the stove down the road. And it's like, wow, that's not so hot, is it? No, not at all. We're not even pulling a sled. It's pulling a stove. Stoves don't have wheels, folks. And nor do they have, they have legs. And to pull anything with legs is some hard stuff, really hard stuff. Now, the South Node in anybody's chart, the South Node represents something you've already mastered. Now, that's probably the fourth, maybe the fifth time I've said that in this video. And so the lesson with our South Node is that because we've already mastered it, we come into this life and we are not supposed to depend on that, because we know that at the opposite end of that South Node, we know is our North Node. And that North Node is truly what our soul wants us to work on. It wants us to work on this end of it because we already know this end. We've already perfected this. So we're taking that energy and we're kind of putting it in the closet. We're kind of putting it away. We don't have to throw it out, but we truly, especially if we've been aware of it, maybe not the words like, oh, you're depending on yourself. No, but being dependent on something that came naturally and never pushing ourselves beyond the comfort zone. And that's what your South Node is going to be. It is totally going to be a comfort zone for you. It's going to be something that's just like, you're just good at it, man. You're just good at it. But the trick is, if you want to grow, if you want to change and evolve, we got to try to do this up here, the North Node. So we're relying less on the South Node. Therefore, the South Node can sometimes be referred to as a release, a let go, right? I said, put it away, right? A let go. Put that toy away. What do you do when you tell your child that? You pick it up and you literally go put it up in the top shelf in the closet somewhere in your room, and it could sit there for 6 months. So that child had to release that, right? And when they're behaving or they're rewarded or whatever the deal is, you may pull it out and let them play with it every now and then, because you found that they were very dependent and they weren't doing anything else. It's kind of oversimplifying it, but not really. Because as adults, we feel like, I'm an adult. I can do whatever the hell I want to do. Don't tell me I have to go and push myself beyond my comfort zones, right? So North Node, what we're trying to work on. If the South Node, which it is, the transiting South Node in Scorpio right now in July, will be in Libra. And remember, if it's a release and a let go, what is it? What's Libra in letting go? Well, what is Libra about? Venus in Libra, what is it about? Ooh, scales of justice. Interesting. I can think of some things in the US's chart where I'm like, yeah, some justices need to go. I can also think of marriages and partnerships and business partnerships, relationships that will be dissolving and ending, right? Because we don't normally take a relationship and go put it in the closet for 6 months and then come back to it. Some people do, where they're like, okay, we're going through therapy. We got to talk things out. And then it's like, okay, that's not working. So we got to create more distance. So, okay, well, him or her or whoever they're going to get their own place. And we're going to kind of see how things go from there. And sometimes when there's enough separation, it gives people a chance to kind of recoup their individual self and to reprioritize and to figure out, okay, is this person still important to me? Right? I'm important to me, right? And that's the thing with Libran energy. especially if you're someone who had a South Node in Libra. You may have found, because it was your superpower, you had a tendency to overcompromise. These are people who would have sacrificed even their career for their partner's career. They would have been the one where it was like, well, my partner got this great job offer, and so I'm going to go ahead and move with them, right? Which is what you do, right? Especially if you're married, you go with them. But not everybody does that, nor do you have to. You have to figure out what works for you and what's right for you. But some people make that decision. They say, you know what? No, I'm committed to this relationship. We're married, for God's sake. We're married, right? Especially if you have kids. And so they make that sacrifice. They go. They're constantly saying, oh, this is what's important for my partner. I got to compromise. They're constantly doing this. And so think of the other people who are in a relationship with somebody like that. They're thinking, damn, this is awesome. Like, this person is always compromising. So what does that mean? Some people might call that person a doormat, because they're always doing what somebody else wants. They're always sacrificing. And what happens when you have that superpower, you will find that many times you could be doing that in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different areas in your life, not just with your committed partner. All right. Now, a lot of other things in your chart would play be a big factor in whether this is a thing for you, like whether you're, somebody who over compromises. There could be other things that balance it out. So it's especially important to look at everything in someone's chart before making a call on something like that. All right. But if you're listening, if you're watching, you know who you are, right? You know if you got that superpower, if you've found yourself over compromising for others to the degree where it was like, what the hell am I doing? Why do I not think that I matter? Why do I not speak up and say, that's not important to me? Matter of fact, I do not like that. Matter of fact, I do not want that way, or I don't want to do this right now, or I don't want to do this ever. Whatever the hell it is, whatever it is, right? That Libran energy is really focused on keeping the peace, because it's Venus. And so Venus is peace loving. And so when it comes to that significant one-on-one relationship, it's almost like it's worth it. She thinks it's worth the sacrifice because it keeps the peace. It's like, I don't want to rock the boat. But I promise you, this will only last for so long. If you are that sort of a person, one day something will occur and it'll finally be like, I've had enough. Matter of fact, we had a person the other night. This is a little bit different story, and I'm not going to go into her story. She was on the Starry Night Live explaining something similar, not identical, but very similar. And she recently had an epiphany, and it was like the light bulb. Well, sounded like more than the light bulb came on, but it was definitely an epiphany. And she really had a huge aha moment. And matter of fact, that saying that I said, the one pulling the sled, or the one pulling the stove down the street type of thing, which was the first time I heard that. And I thought, I'm stealing that one. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, there just comes a time where it's like, enough is enough. Right. And so that's what happens. And the reality is, though, this person understood that it wasn't the other person's fault. They turned it, and this person high level of awareness, if you ask me, because they said to themselves and to me and to people in the live, this person said, I'm an enabler. Because I'm doing this, I am enabling this to go on. And it's like, that's right. That's right. And that's called taking your power, by holding yourself accountable instead of pointing the finger at somebody and being like, well, it's because they take advantage of me. No, you allow yourself, right? And again, this is a little bit different than her story. But it's the idea, it's the awareness that she had of, if she were to, when she had this epiphany and the realization of, if I stop this, then I won't have to always be the only one pulling the sled. Right. It's just that simple. right? And so every choice, every thought, every decision, every communication from that moment on will change, will change. And a year from now, I would love to see how she's living her life and to see what's changed, like in the material and the tangible and how her world looks in general. So, South Node in Libra, a release of some sort. And when that South Node hits, it'll be at 29, which is interesting. And that's why I'm kind of glad about this chart, because here it's showing Humea is there. Humea is in Libra right now. I know I've kind of marked it up and drawn a lot on here, but it's important to see this. It's important because, let me get the red. Yeah. You see the 29? Yeah. Humea is there, but that's also where the South Node is going to be. Now, will Humea be there at the same time? I have to look that up and find out. Humea is about, Humea is like this Hawaiian goddess energy, and it's about restoration, like out of the ashes type of thing. After there's been like a wildfire or something, you still see life. You'll see a sprig of green popping up. And it's like, how is that possible? Right? Where it was all this destruction, it's like a rebirth. It's kind of like the Hawaiians Phoenix rising, Humea, to me. So, that's interesting, because I don't know if she's going to be there, so I kind of don't want to tap into that any further, but 29 degrees is a critical degree. And Pluto will likely, right, still be at the 29 degree point in Capricorn. And so that's the north and the south nodes, right, being in the cardinal signs, and Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn, a cardinal sign. So something major could happen, and it can be, at that 29 degrees, we should probably just expect something major to happen. And because Pluto will be in business and government, and this can be lawyer energy, this can be businesses in general, right? Because it's partnerships, that can be business partnerships, right? So there's just something that's being released. But for us at home, and people who, we have our own charts, because we're like, okay, that's nice, I want to know what's going on in my life. You find out what house number it's going to be in. And so for this chart, as an example, this would be your chart, let's pretend. I would say, okay, if the South Node is going to be in Libra in your third house, when we think of talking and communicating and learning, so maybe not learning, right? Like say you used to take a course, maybe you're graduating, and so you won't be having those classes anymore, right? You're releasing what you've learned in terms of relationships. Right? So for me, because it can also have a business slant to it, this could also be sales, because it's business partnerships. And the third house is talking, but it's the salesperson, that white collar worker even. So this can be now remember, this is just an example chart, because I was ready to just go rip roaring through. I was ready to say, okay, we got a lot of white collar workers and a lot of layoffs, and because it is the South Node. So I'm not that far off. If you think about it, right? There's a lot that's going to be happening, and it's going to be squaring corporations and big businesses and government. Yeah, because it'll be squaring Capricorn energy. The nodes will be squaring Capricorn. So there will be changes. South Node is about releases. And for us in our lives, if this was my chart even, third house, it could be like communications, snail mail, whether I'm online or not. And remember, it's releasing. I'm releasing these things that I'm talking about. When we think of people, this could be next door neighbors. This can be siblings. This can be coworkers. This can be classmates, right? These are people that you could be, but these are people who you're really close to, though. You're really close to them. You have significant one-on-one relationships with them. These are people you have in your life that you're willing to compromise for. So how many people are you willing to compromise for? Many times at our jobs, we have to do that, right? Many times we do. Especially if we were, trying to work for and towards a promotion, or we're trying to, we're just trying to get higher up in some way, shape, or form. So we make certain sacrifices or compromises. Okay. And Libran energy, communications, third house. This is also, remember, this is just an example. So this would be like social media because it's third house. It's all things with communications in the third house and thinking and sales. I know I already said sales, but the way you talk, the way you relate to people, right? The learning that you do, South Node going through there, maybe semesters are over, you've graduated, so you're not going to be learning, and you're definitely maybe be putting off the next 18 months if you've got all Libran in your third house. It's definitely like, oh, I used to go online and I used to be online for like online dating apps and stuff like that. This would be a release. This would be like, I'm not doing that anymore. And so for some people, this could just be those significant people in your life. Siblings can be one of them because it's the third house. Siblings, coworkers, next door neighbors, housemates, even, right? Third house. This is all that. It's like your peers, like peer energy. But with Libra, it makes it more serious. It makes it more about people you're kind of committed to in some way because you are willing to compromise for them. All right. So this is the conclusion of my South Node in Libra. Where is the Libran energy in your chart? And that's how you can find out what area the South Node will be going through. And it will be for the next 18 months of your life. South Node in Libra. You got any questions? Comment below to me, and I'll help you out in any way that I can. Thank you. Bye-bye. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.